Filmed in the beautiful Will Rogers Museum, I'm Lea McCormick, and this is Oklahoma Talent. And what is your name?
I'm Brian Shoop.
And where were you born?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio, and actually Toledo Hospital. I lived in Bono, Ohio, which is a little turn in the road outside east of Toledo.
Okay. Was it named after Sonny Bono?
No.
Okay. Who is your father, and what did he do? What does he do?
My dad was named Willard Ira Shoop. He was a chemist for the Sun Oil Company, which I was always impressed by that. He understood chemistry. For me, it was just an annoyance I had to pass.
I understand that. And who is your mother?
Alice Elizabeth was my mother, and she was a homemaker all the time I was there. When I moved out and went off to college and whatnot, she began driving a school bus, which is hilarious because she's a very meek, mild-mannered little lady.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
3 brothers and 1 little sister.
Wow. And what is your lineage?
I'm the 3rd brother. Wait a minute. I only have 2 brothers. I didn't study for this test.
There were 4 of you?
4 of us all
Okay.
together, yes.
And what is your lineage or your heritage?
Pennsylvania Dutch.
Pennsylvania Dutch.
No idea what that means. Dad told me and I bought it, so.
Did you watch television or films growing up? And if you did, what did you watch?
We didn't have a television in our house when I was little. I don't think that's because we couldn't afford it. We didn't have a lot of things, but we didn't. They were protecting us from the evils of television. I think when we were little, I would sneak over to the neighbor's house, of course, and watch, Roy Rogers, and Big Top was a thing back then. Big Top was a circus show. Yeah. But then when I got to high school age, about in there, I suppose my older brothers wore my parents down, and we had a little set finally. And I would bring my wife home after church on Sunday night, and we'd watch Mission Impossible. I remember it was a big time.
But she wasn't your wife then yet?
She wasn't yet.
Okay.
But now she is, and she's been that for 50 years and 1 month and 22 days.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
That's a feat.
It was Mission Impossible, but started the whole thing out.
You were training her.
Yeah. This is what you're facing should you accept the mission.
Accept your mission. How did the first creative spark appear in you? How did you first decide you were creative?
Of course, I could imagine at the drop of a hat as a child that I was a cowboy or a army guy or a spaceman or cowboy. I had one of those hats like Woody, and my neighbor and I would play. We'd have elaborate things scenes that we'd act out, and I was always the lead cowboy. I feel bad about that now, but that's pretty much it. And then when I got to high school, I got into athletics and stuff in junior high, and football and basketball and track and so forth, and it wasn't very becoming for an athlete to be in the arts very much, and so I backed away from that, except for my friend and I sang in a talent show. We sang a duet. We sang several Simon and Garfunkel numbers, And in between the songs, we had this little banter that was based on the I Spy, Robert Culp and Bill Cosby, and their little way of speaking to each other. And we did that. That was a big hit. And so we got to be a thing at the high school. Every time they had any kind of event or assembly, we would sing. But that's about the extent of it in my youth.
When did you begin your training as an actor, and where?
Well, I didn't begin acting at all until I was here in Oklahoma, so it was in my 30s, early 30s. And so it was kind of a midlife crisis thing for me. But I was here, so my first acting class was right here in Tulsa. And then later, when I got to LA, there was a plethora of workshops and classes, and so until I ended up at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. Al Mancini was my teacher. He was his biggest movie was
Wasn't it the Dirty Dozen?
that Dirty Dozen.
Okay.
He was the guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
But yeah, fabulous actor, but a really great teacher as well.
But why did you go to LA? Did you move with your job, or did you
No,
move
no,
with your
I was-
wife's job, or did you go to as an actor? Or?
I went looking for acting work. Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
okay.
reason I went. My wife is amazingly supportive of this malady, and she stayed here and kept the home fires burning. I would go there. I had a place there in the valley, and then I would, I'd go there for 2 weeks at a time, and I'd go to my classes, and I'd look for work, and invariably I'd have to come home here because I'd have a job. I'd have to come home and shoot something, and then I would go back and look for more work. So
She's wonderful.
she's amazing. Yeah.
What was your first acting job, or do you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was a commercial. It was for a. This is the first acting, paying acting.
Right.
Excuse me. It was a commercial for some substance abuse treatment center in Tennessee, I think. And I played a drunk at the bar, and
The one that required the substance
yeah,
abuse.
I was in need of treatment, and I was missing my son's baseball game, and yeah, that was my foray into the world of acting, and Mom was real proud of that.
That's how I pick my parts. Is my mom going to
Yeah,
be proud
no
of
kidding,
this?
yeah.
Your first film part.
That was a regular audition thing, and I got cast in that for the lead.
Woohoo!
But then, the producer said, "No, we want somebody that's more recognizable."
Oh,
And I said, "Then this?" But but they kept me. They wrote a part for me, actually.
that
yeah,
was nice.
to keep me in the movie, and it was so I was just a guy in this little bar. It was about a football player who had grown up in the state and from this little town. It was their claim to fame. He got a scholarship to OU and was going to be in the Football Hall of Fame, no doubt. And he blew his knee out on the spring practice the first year, so
Oh,
he didn't ever play. But the town still kept him as their hero, so he was sitting most of his days in this bar with his buddies, and I was in the bar too. And my name was Stranger Number One, I think. But they would even come in as, "Hey, stranger," just.
so
It was a long shoot.
It was a true character name.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and but anyway, it was such a funny movie, so fun. The guy they got, Mark Boone Jr. I mean, that guy's been all over in Batman and all kinds of stuff. He's been in Neil Giantoli was in Shawshank. I mean, the guys were really moving along in their careers. Aji, forgot his last name, but he
Kirkland
Kirkland, yeah, he was
and Bosch. I love Bosch.
Bosch, yeah, and he also did The Big Lebowski.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, and Toby Huss was in that. That guy is so funny, and I see him all the time. He's still working all the time, but he's been in with that cartoon, the Texas guys down in
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. He's been in that a lot, and lots of other things. But anyway, that was my first movie experience, and it was such a blast. And that movie actually got accepted into Sundance. But as I said, about the same time, I did Chillicothe, which was just done by some friends of mine. So, there was no audition. They said, "You want to be in our movie?" And so I was in that movie, Chillicothe. That movie made it to Sundance.
That's cool.
So the Sundance and Slam Dance, and they were showing at the same time. So I took my boy, and we went to Utah that day, that year, and it was just a blast. Really a fun time. And fun fact that those the guys who did Chillicothe are now in L.A. Permanently, and they've done lots of really good stuff, like animation stuff.
Oh, wow.
They did that Red Riding Hood movie. What was that? Hoodwinked.
Hoodwink, yeah.
And several others. Anyway, they're very successful.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, one of those was my first movie.
So I know this is a hard question for actors, but what's your favorite part so far? And why?
The next one.
Yeah.
I think I picked for this. I think I picked the Saul.
Yeah.
Was Saul? Did I? Mm-hmm. It was in the Deep Below, and it was a fun movie to shoot as well. But that he was a creep. He was a bad guy, and usually I don't get cast as bad guys, and so that was fun to figure him out and to play him. But also fun was his bad guy partner was Michael Dorn, who's Worf,
yes.
right, on Star Trek, and so that was really cool to get to hang out with Michael Dorn, and plus he likes airplanes too. So in fact, he at that time he had an F-86, which is a
Wow.
Korean War era jet fighter.
Yeah.
Single seat fighter that he flew. He told me he flew it from California to Florida once, just for a family reunion, just to show off.
Wow.
I don't know how many times he had to stop and fuel it up, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. And he also had a Saberliner business jet, and we talk about airplanes, but he was such a friendly, warm guy. You know what? Most everybody I meet who are the famous actors are friendly and nice and giving and
Down to earth.
generous. Yeah. I'm sure you've had the same experience.
I have, and it's hard I think it would be hard to not be. One of my acting coaches tells me that as an actor, you train to be a professional human.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, as an
good.
actor, you have to have empathy and sympathy, and that humbles you. You can't be, I wouldn't think, it would be hard to be full of yourself if you're training right.
Right. They're out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's, like any profession, I suppose there's a few that are,
Yeah. 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 we won't
Generally
talk
not,
about-
though. That's been a pleasant experience for me, generally.
Now, you told us about Michael Dorn.
Mm-hmm.
What other actors have you worked with?
Oh, ba-doop-ba-doo. Well, several. I've worked with Aidan Quinn, Kelly Preston, and
Who's the most famous one?
Sandra Bullock is probably the most famous one.
Is she as nice as everybody thinks she is? I mean, I know we just talked about that.
Yeah,
but she
she's
just-
amazing. Let me tell you a story about her.
Okay.
Well, a couple stories actually. We were shooting down in Texas, and in one of the scenes we were walking across a parking lot. There were three abreast. That Toby Jones was the other guy. That there's another name. He's in all the Captain America things and.
Yeah.
Well, everything. He's all the time you see him. But anyway, we were walking across a parking lot and then across some railroad tracks and into this silo thing. And so I was on one side of Sandra and he was on the other. And I was to take her arm as we go across the railroad tracks. I was playing a Western rancher, but I was a gentleman, so I took care of her across. Anyway, I was trying to help her across the tracks. I had leather boots on that they had gotten, from wardrobe, and not used to that at all, and stepped right in the middle of my foot, right on the arch, on the rail of the railroad track. And it's really slippery. Mm-hmm. So I went crashing right into Sandra, and that's how we met. But she was very gracious there. But the other thing is, in another scene, we were. It was kind of an emotional scene. I was facing the camera and talking to the two of them, right? So they're facing away from the camera, and so I'm going through this emotional little monologue there, and every time, most of it was delivered to Toby, and but at one point I would look at Sandra for some reason in the monologue, and every time I did, she had tears in her eyes.
Wow.
Looking away from the camera. Just totally not in the scene at all, but very much in the scene.
She was in the zone.
She was not just being there for taking up space. She was really in the scene with me.
And so you have a clip here from a film called Suicide. Is that what you said? And it was filmed in Colorado?
Right. It's actually, the guy is, the writer is from New York, and his wife is from Paris, who is in the scene with me. But we drove the whole company over to Colorado and stayed in a beautiful little bed and breakfast in the mountains for a couple weeks.
I don't know what to say.
French? That's a French accent. What did you say your name was?
Louise McPhee?
Your father. What was your father's name?
Jacques. Jacques McPhee.
Jack was my son.
He named me after my grandmother.
His mother. My wife. My escargot, Louise! You were wearing Louise's necklace. I bought this for her because she was my belle, escargot. You are my granddaughter? You are my granddaughter? Oh, wonderful humor the gods must have today. The projection you saw was your grandmother, Louise. Only bigger. She used to be as big as she was. How did you find me? Why are you here?
I came here for your help.
Help? How can the dog man help you? I can teach you nothing, and I no longer take pupils. Man is a fool and a dog. That's all I know. That's all I know. Fool and a dog.
So what was the story? Was she really your granddaughter?
Yeah, it's a science fiction film noir thing.
Oh.
And yeah, there's my character invented a camera that actually records reality, and then a projector that can project that reality somewhere else. And with it, since I used it to take a picture of my wife, I actually killed my wife with it.
Oh, wow.
Her mother. And she has been the kid that I trained took her picture, and so she's dying as well, and she's come to me for help to
Okay.
see if I can reverse this somehow.
Wow. That was neat. And you shot that in Colorado when it was cold?
Yeah, it was really cold. I had that big skin on, so I was warm as toast. But that poor girl, she had this little cotton dress and that little bitty coat, which is always open, and she was. And this is the warmest day. She was. Some of the scenes she was walking through snowdrifts, a snowstorm, blowing snow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fierce. She was a trooper, though. She
The
was
life
amazing.
of an actor.
Yeah.
You do have a regular stint with your commercials, though.
Locally.
Yes.
Yeah,
What's the company? I can't ever remember the name of them.
It shows you how effective the commercials are. But anyway.
I just said that's the Shoop commercial.
Yeah, there you go. In fact, yeah, that's what they are. But it's custom services,
Yes.
heat and air.
Yeah.
And I've been there almost 10 years. It's an incredible gig. I've never heard of such a thing, but it's been awesome, been really wonderful. They're great people to work with, and so, you know, it's going to wind down at some point because you ain't getting any younger. And I don't know how, you know, bringing a walker on the set would affect the sales, but
Could put it behind the van, you know.
have one of those lifts up
Yeah.
into the van.
Be riding the lift as you're, as you're talking about
Yeah.
service. That's funny.
Well, it's been really amazing.
That's neat. Custom.
Custom services. Just did another one,
Customs.
actually. It started this week.
Yay. Well, my mom's a big fan. I've told you that several times. So.
Oh, let me tell you. Can I tell you another story?
Yes.
I had some trouble with my eye here a while back, and so I had to go to an ophthalmologist. And I don't know if you've been to an ophthalmologist's office, but maybe they're not all like this, but in this guy's office at least, there was a lot of older people in the waiting room, because I guess when you get older, not like me, you understand,
Right.
but older people, there's things that go wrong with your retina. There's glaucoma and things like that that need to be, anyway. So I was sitting in there waiting for my appointment, and this lady kept looking at me, you know, and finally she just came over and said, "I'm sorry, are you that guy on television?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." She said, "My mother loves you." I'm happy she's still alive. Man, oh man. Anyway.
I'm sure you have younger fans too. Okay.
She took my picture and sent it to her mother.
She loved it. Okay, now we're going to do the 10 questions that were famously used by James Lipton in Inside the Actor's Studio. So, what is your favorite word?
Joy. I think I remember these.
What is your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on?
Being in a really good scene with really good actors.
What turns you off?
Selfish people.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, that's easy. My grandkids laughing.
What sound or noise do you hate?
My alarm clock.
I agree with that. What's your favorite curse word?
Horses. Because that's what my dad said when he was really, really mad. So you knew to back out of the room if you heard Dad say horses.
I like that. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Architecture.
I love architecture.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have a friend that's an architect, and he and I met at a party and sat and talked for like 2 hours
Yeah.
about architect. I love architecture. Anyway, it's not about me. What profession would you not like to attempt?
Oh, law.
Okay. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
And scene.
I like that. Okay, this final question is not something you have to, I'm not going to read that part. The final question is, I would like for you to give advice to the audience about the art or business of acting. It can be as long or as short as you see fit. Possibly something you wish you were told when you started or something you learned along the way.
There's so much I don't know, and there's what I do know. One thing I know is that you never stop learning. You never get to the point where you have it all. The hardest thing for me to learn was, and maybe continues to be vulnerable, to separate myself from being good, from worrying if people like me. When I was being a cowboy as a little boy, I didn't worry about any of that. I just was a cowboy, and I went and made up the story and lived it. But then you get a little older and you worry about, like when I was in high school, I didn't want to go out for the play because what would the other guys on the team think? And so, you worry about what other people think, maybe, and that bleeds into even after a lot of experience, plays and in front of the camera and so forth, still worrying about, I hope I'm good, I hope they like me, and so getting past that, getting to where that when there are moments, and unfortunately they're just moments, when you walk into a scene and you don't know what's going to happen. It's not that you haven't learned the lines. You've got the lines, but you're not thinking about the lines. You're not thinking about who's going to be there, what they're going to do or say. You're just, you have some reason that you walk into the scene, and that's all you're thinking about. And then you get there, and things begin to happen, and people begin to say things, and it triggers responses. That's the most amazing, wonderful moment. That's the cocaine of being an actor. It's just and to be okay with that, to be truthful, and to come away from an experience saying that was real, that was truthful, that's the gold standard, I think. I might have been told that early on, never clicked until years later, but so, that as I learn the craft, those are the things that's the high I keep trying to get back to. So whatever I can do to encourage that, to develop that, to refine that, that's what I want to pursue. That's why I'm still in a class and still doing scenes every week, because you don't get done. You don't learn it all. And besides, it's fun.
It is fun.
Horses, it's fun.
Doris Roberts, you know Doris Roberts? She was in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Okay.
She took acting classes the entire time she was doing Everybody Loves Raymond.
Wow.
Her acting coach changed his day for classes to Saturday so that she could go.
Wow.
I'm taking the same classes.
Are you? Nice. Did he change the day for you?
No, they're on Saturday.
Well, that's awesome.
But she's the one that moved them to Saturday. But yeah.
Very cool. Well,
I think that, she wasn't young in Everybody Loves Raymond, and she was still taking acting classes every week. So.
And she wasn't inexperienced. And so,
no.
yeah, it's not, it's just lifeblood, as you know, because you're, and it's, you don't stop learning. It's always, there's always something else. And you look back at things you've done in the past and think, ooh.
Definitely.
But that's the road.
Thank you, Brian.
Oh, such a pleasure. Delighted to
Thank you for
hang
doing
out
this.
for a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be